I've sketched out my little bird and I'm using masking fluid to mask out the light areas. I'm using an ordinary paper clip to apply the masking fluid. It creates really fine lines, and I'm going to put it in the light of the bird's eye, on some of the feathers, and also sponge on some masking fluid on the tree branches as well. So once you finish applying your masking fluid, allow the masking fluid to dry naturally. Don't blow dry it. These are the colours that I'm using. As I say, alternative colours can be found in the description below. So I've mixed up my colours and I'm wetting the background area. That's all the yellowy orangey area with my flat, large 1.5 inch soft watercolour brush, but any sort of mop brush will do. And I'm carefully painting around the bird. So don't wet the bird, and that way your background won't leak onto the bird. And I'm going to apply the lightest colours first. That's the yellow and then the orange, and I've mixed that with the yellow and red, and then I've mixed the red with the Paynes grey to make a sort of a mid brown as well. I'm going to be painting this wet on wet with my size 14 brush. I use my size 6 brush as well to paint around the more intricate areas for a little bit more control, and I'm using my size 14 brush with a mixture of some orange with a touch of the Paynes grey, and painting a very sort of pale wash on top of the dried masking fluid now for the first layer on the branches. And I'm using my size 6 brush and just painting on some creamy light green, and that's the yellow with some cerulean there, painting it damp into damp onto the surface of the tree branch there. And I've actually mixed up a little bit of a darker green using some of the Paynes grey as well. I'm using the paper clip again to scratch into the surface of the paper. I sometimes do this with a plastic store card cut up, but it's quite nice because you get some really fine lines with the paper clip. So it's amazing what you can find around the house to help you to create textures in your watercolour painting. I'm using some Brusho. I'm going to be sprinkling onto the damp surface here. It's light brown, and if you want to learn more about Brusho, I'll put a link in the description below of a video I made all about using Brusho. This is black Brusho, and I'm sprinkling it as well onto the damp surface. I'm just sort of protecting the background because it tends to sort of travel everywhere. So I'm putting a little bit at the top here, and that does travel a little bit. As you can see, it's spread a little bit into the background there, but I'm spritzing it as well to sort of wake it up a bit, and it creates the most amazing effects. I'm also sprinkling some table salt, and I'm going to allow the painting to dry. Once your painting has dried, you can start painting your nuthatch bird. I'm using my size 6 brush. I'm working wet on dry, and I'm started off with some pale cerulean, and I'm going to build up sort of darker washes as well using Paynes grey and cerulean mixed together. So once you finish painting your bird, allow your painting to dry again. You can either blow dry or leave it to dry naturally. I'm using some circle stencils, a little bowl there as you can see of water, and a sponge. You can use a magic sponge as well. You can use a stencil brush or an old brush. Do not use your good brushes to lift off because you'll lose the points of the brushes. So I'm just placing the stencils here and there, and I'm changing the size as well, and then I'm lifting off with my sponge. And I'll put a link in the description below because I've made a couple of these videos now creating backgrounds like this, and they're so much fun to do. I really recommend it. But I'm really sort of pulling off that paint here. Watercolour isn't permanent, so it does come off. If you like these sort of backgrounds and you want to do more of them as well, and you're inspired by this tutorial and you want to lift off paint, try to lift off non-staining paints. Staining ones are more tricky to lift off if you like this technique. So it's a little tip for you there. So as you can see, I'm just sort of working with the water and then dabbing with the tissue afterwards as well, because there's a little bit of residue. You also might find there's some water left on the stencil as well. So just keep wiping that every now and again. It looks so amazing, doesn't it? It really is effective. It looks like sort of blurry lights in the distance there, and it creates depth as well because the background looks out of focus. So it's a good time to allow my painting to dry. Once your painting is dry, remove that layer of masking fluid that you sponged on the tree branches here. I'm using a paper towel to remove it. You could use masking tape or an eraser as well, or your thumb as well. I've mixed up a very thin wash of Cerulean and some Paynes grey, really thin. I'm applying it wet on dry with my sort of flat soft haired brush here, so it's like a glaze and it pushes back that sort of bright light of the paper. Once you've removed that masking fluid, it looks more natural. And I've done that to the top branch as well, just adding a little bit more Cerulean in there and just glazing it very gently. When you paint in watercolour, the reason why we use soft brushes is it doesn't disturb the paint underneath because it's not permanent. As I've shown you, I've lifted off using the stencils there, and you can see how easy it is to lift off the watercolour. What I'm doing now is using my size 2 brush with very creamy Paynes grey. You can add a little bit of red to it as well, and painting some of the edges of this branch here to create some lovely yummy textures. So I'm allowing the painting to dry again, and I'm working on the bird using my size 2 brush and some Paynes grey, and just sort of creating some textures here and there, painting the beak. And try to breathe when you do that as well. And you can add water here and there to soften that Paynes grey if it looks a little bit dark. As you can see here, I'm just building up some of the detail on the bird here, using a mixture of the Paynes grey with a touch of red, and then softening it with my brush with some clean water, and also to create a little bit of shading as well, and the texture of the bird's feathers there. I'm just adding a little bit of shading here using a mixture of the Cerulean with a tiny touch of the Paynes grey, and just softening with some clean water. Try and keep the top part of the bird as white as you can, don't lose the light. And I'm just darkening up some of the background here, just with some of the orangey colour, just to bring out the light of the bird. It was a bit too light in the background, so I think that works quite nicely. I'm just sponging some white gouache onto the dry surface of this branch to create some sparkle and texture and light texture on the branch as well. So once your painting is dry, you can, if you need to, add a little bit more of the white gouache to the bird, especially if you've lost your light. But it's quite nice to put some details in, like the highlight in the eye and some little detailing on the feathers as well, working wet on dry. I love to finish off my paintings with a spatter. It actually stops me from overworking my paintings, and it adds a little bit of sparkle and hides a lot of mistakes as well at times. So here is the finished painting. I really enjoy painting it. I love these backgrounds. They're so effective. For those of you that would like to support my YouTube channel, learn more about watercolour, get access to exclusive content and downloadable outline sketches, why not think about joining my Patreon membership? Details about that can be found in the description below. Thank you so much for watching. Happy painting. Bye for now.